Hey there, thanks again for joining in for another interview episode of the Impulsive Thinker podcast. I have here Shannon Waller from Strategic Coach. She is a passionate expert on entrepreneurial teams. She is a coach, a sought after speaker, presenter, author, and also a podcast host of the Team Success podcast. And of course, someone I really enjoy having intellectual and meaningful conversation about strength building and self-awareness. We know each other from Strategic Coach, and with Colby, where you're a certified consultant. We met each other at the conferences and many great conversations. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here and to talk about what I think is actually one of the key entrepreneurial superpowers in the world. And it's very fun to have someone else who's as passionate about it, if not more so than I am.
Well, that's definitely you. Passion is definitely a word for you, whatever you get yourself into. How long have you been with Coach and dealing with entrepreneurs and teams? I guess our listeners a background of your expertise in all this.
Thank you. So I started working with Strategic Coach in July of 1991. At the time of recording this, it's over 30 years, which is a long time. And a lot of people are wondering, like, how can you stay with one place for so long? It's because I get to do me. I get to be me and have an enormous amount of freedom to do that. So, and I am ADHD. So that's saying something. So I have some ideas about what really makes that work and what doesn't. I also realized really early on, because both Babs and Dan, who co-founded Strategic Coach, are also ADHD. So I kind of finally found my tribe when I found Coach.
Yeah.
And so many of our clients are as well. So this has been a little bit my normal. Even everyone else is not normal, but my normal for a very, very long time.
So the key thing I got out of that was that you found an environment that really allowed you to be you and not be ashamed or hide or mask anything. I think that's a very important thing to note on that. And that's what I got of it. And we got to find our environment that works for us mutually.
Yeah, there's two parts to that. There's knowing ourselves. So you said that earlier, and one of my personal bylines is know thyself. It is a core value for me. You might like this, Andre. One of my personal rules, I kind of only have one, actually. I can't think of really any others, but my rule about interacting with others is I trust people to the degree that I think they know themselves.
Yes, I believe that.
Turns out to be a really good rule. Mm-hmm. And if I think someone doesn't know themselves, I don't trust them either. And if they say, I'm not good for you, I believe them. I take people at their word with that. Because you have to know yourself to be able to be discerning about what the right environment is. But when you do know yourself, I know when I first applied for jobs before Coach, I turned down some because I'm like, wow. I was actually offered a job, company before Strategic Coach, and they wanted me for like reception, kind of admin role. And I'm like, you actually don't want me for that. You have this other role that I think I'd be much better suited for. I was like 24 years old. How in Lord's name did I have the wherewithal to be that forward? And this was the time when jobs were scarce. Mm-hmm. So it was economically, it wasn't a great time. But I just knew I would not, be able to thrive in that role and be successful. And I was correct. But then I did find something that was a much better fit. And that's actually that company that introduced me to Coach, and the rest is history.
So can you say have you known yourself truly for how long? Like for you to be that 24, you didn't think you knew yourself, but you portrayed something that they saw.
Yeah, I knew there were a whole bunch of places where I didn't fit. Right. So I'd already had bad experience. And after a while, you try a bunch of stuff. It's like spaghetti, right? You throw it in the wall and see what sticks. A lot of stuff didn't stick with me. I didn't stick with it. So that was interesting. So I had life experience. I was also part of a family. I mean, technically you could call them hippies, but they were very much into personal and professional, well, mostly personal growth through the 70s and all of that. So, because I was born in 65. So I kind of grew up in an environment where, understanding yourself, your own thoughts, your own feelings was kind of normal, and to pay attention to that. Now, I didn't have any of the language or the words or the tools or the amazing profiles like Colby to talk about it more succinctly and more accurately. But I did have a very strong feeling / instinct for where I would thrive and where I would not. And I fortunately didn't have it beat out of me. So I went with it, is how that worked out.
Yeah, for me, I always knew what worked well, how I worked well, but I could not communicate it. Even though everyone can tell, they can communicate to me how it wasn't normal or how it wasn't done that way, but I couldn't communicate it. And then once I got the diagnosis and more awareness of like with the Colby Strength Finders and all that, it's, you can advocate for yourself a lot clearer and easier if you know what the language is.
100%, Andre. And words are tools.
Yes.
We build with them, we create with them, we create mental pictures with them, we help people understand. So having the tools, some people are worried about profiles because they think it boxes them in. I'm like, no, it's the best thing ever. You're a multidimensional human being. This only covers a sliver, an important sliver, but a sliver of you. So never feel boxed in. But when you have common language where something, you can compare your strengths, you can compare your talents, you can compare your striving instincts, that is gold. Because without that, it's really hard, as it's really frustrating.
Yeah, because what you say, a lot of people do use those personality tests to box themselves in. But you're right, it's not all of you, it's part of you. Like I always say, ADHD is only a part of you, it's not all of you. So like Ben Hardy and his personality isn't permanent, he made the good point of that's what those assessment tools are used for, and people interpret it and they try to box themselves in. But that's a danger because that's only a part of you. And then with your personality, it changes as you grow, or as you start making, achieving goals and that. So the one thing you did say was be aware where you didn't fit. I made a realization a couple of weeks ago that I always chased the same environments I did not fit in, so I can be accepted. And I was always going from one acceptance, chasing for the next acceptance, and then realizing it became a norm. It felt normal and comfortable to be in those environments. But for the listeners out there who are struggling to fit in, to find a place, I think if you write down the places where you didn't fit in, that'd be your list of what to avoid. I think it'd be a good strategy to say, that didn't work there, and let's go somewhere else and try it. It's tough. It's scary to try a different environment.
It is, but what you're talking about is that need for belonging is so powerful. Like it is a basic human need. Maslow was not incorrect. After physical safety, belonging is the next one. So it's really important that we find people that we can relate to or that we can fit in. Even if we have to contort ourselves completely out of shape, we will do it for that sense of belonging. But the enormous amount of freedom comes when you actually go, okay, no, I don't fit there, and identify why. Too slow paced, not enough stimulation, not enough change, not enough new, not enough, just not enough stimulation for a lot of times, or occasionally sometimes too much of the wrong kind. I worked one of my summer jobs one time. My dad got me the job, and he was a lawyer, and so he got me with, he was a lawyer for de Havilland Aircraft, and he, not ADHD by the way, and so he got me a job at a law firm. And I was smiling.
Ooh.
If you know my Colby, that's the worst idea ever. So the only way I could do it was to do it quickly, because if it's quickly, I don't get bored. But honest to God, I can't. So many times, Andre, I was battling sleep. At 2:00, I would be almost passing out because the boredom was exhausting, by the way. It's not.
It takes more mental energy to deal with boredom and focus on like, stuff you don't want to do it.
Yeah, they were like, slow down. There was a woman in the office who I think was 78 years old. She was still there. She was great, but she could do that even pace. No, I need a fast pace. And I had all my work done by then, by the way. I wasn't skimping at all. I was a hard worker. That was no problem. But they were like, slow down, Shannon. I'm like, oh, I'm going to die. It was one of them. I'm like, okay, cross that one off the list. So or to never go again.
So what you did is you tweaked that boring task and made it urgent.
Yes,
so
I absolutely did.
So you can engage your brain, so it can become interesting and urgent. So it's interesting. I think a lot of us don't realize you do that. I know for me, for many years, I create pressure every morning. I always had pack as much as I can in the morning. So when I woke up, I got a big day, brain's firing, and I can just get going. Wow, this is not what I wanted to talk about, but I want to keep going anyways.
Okay, because this is what I want to say.
This is what I love about it. We had a plan to talk about something else, but we're going down this road, and this is way more interesting. It's gone
Let's
more
do that.
interesting. We'll keep going.
Andre, can I just riff off what you just said though? Because
Yep.
I do the same thing, and I think this is really key. So I stack my day. At one point, I had someone scheduling for me because I'm a horrible scheduler. I'm just the worst. I'm very good at living my schedule. I'm terrible at arranging it. Just saying. So she was putting all of this space in between client calls, and I was dying. It was like my energy would be high, and then it would dip, and it would be high, and then it would dip. I'm like, no, maximum 15 minutes, stack them. Which is not how she would have done it.
Right.
But I call it running across the lily pads.
Mhm.
I don't spend too long at any one. I'm safe. I keep hopping and I'm good and I work at a fast pace. I never lose steam. I pull off a lot,
Mhm.
exceedingly productive, may crash at the end, but it's good.
That's the
But
reality.
don't let me stop. That is the worst possible thing.
Mhm. Well, what you're saying there too is it's the same task. Phone calls, or if you're talking calls, it's the same task. You're not requiring a transition time.
No,
Right.
My
So-
transition time is dramatically shorter than most people.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it might be a little bit like Colby, short, what's called follow through, and then long quick start. But I don't need a lot. I mean, now there's a whole bunch of great work done on switch tasking. And it does take, if I'm switching tasks, it does take some time. I do tend to be faster than most people. Don't ask me why. No idea. But but still, it's like if I'm going from reading, like the exercise this guy has, and I won't forget his name. I'll send it to you after. He has you write the alphabet and then numbers 1 through 26.
Mhm.
Each one of those tasks by itself, if you do start to finish, is really fast. If you go A1, B2, that's the switch tasking. No matter how fast you are, it still takes you twice as long to do it that way. So
Mhm.
switch tasking is a thing. But once I'm done one task, I can quickly shift to the next one. Don't have to slow down or gear up again. So keeping that pace for me, I don't know how it is for you, is just essential.
I like an urgency. Yeah, I need an urgency. I like to go. I go all in. For me, my hyper focus is my biggest ability, and I can get in there quickly. But for me to transition tasks, I realized that it depends. If I go from, like, say, a lot of engineering calculations, and I'm just going to go to reading, that's a different type of thing. If it was within engineering is one thing, but I found the more mental effort that was required to do that first task, I need a longer break in between because my mind is still racing on what I was doing previously. Then I can't focus on something else until I can clear my mind, have that slow down, and then I can transition into the other. So the type of task, it dictates my span.
I think that's a really insightful point. But if you were going from calculations of one kind to calculations of another,
that's quick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I'm going from phone call to phone call to phone call,
It's the
but
same
same with
task.
me. If I'm going from phone call to spreadsheets, yeah, you better give me some time.
Well, now you're talking about something boring.
For me, yes, you might rock that. Can I share where I got some huge insights, especially about entrepreneurism and ADHD? And this is what we were talking about before we hit record. And that is a guy named Tom Hartman. And it's THOM HARTMANN. It's an early book of his. He's not writing about ADD anymore. He used to run a forum. He got diagnosed because he took his son in, as it often happens.
That's common.
Very common. Son was diagnosed. But he wrote a book, then it was called Attention Deficit Disorder, A Different Perception. And the subtitle was Being a Hunter in a Farmer's World. And if you read the book, the hunting instincts, and this is actually how I describe ADHD to people now. I find it the healthiest and the least blaming, shaming, guilt-inducing, description ever. He talks about the fact that hunters really have actually 4 characteristics. Number 1 is easily distractible. You are paying attention to everything. So if you look at how that translates to a kid in school, they're hearing the teacher's voice, they're watching the bee crawl out the window and the girl's pigtail in front of them. Mm-hmm. All of those have equal weight.
Yeah.
Not the teacher. You know what I mean? So very distractible. Then they're impulsive. They see a twitch in the bushes. This is going back to the hunter part, and they're willing to go after it. Okay, so whatever kind of impulse occurs to them, that's impulsive, and which, by the way, is good for a hunter, not so good for being in the classroom. Then risk taking, they're willing to go after it, not knowing what it is, not knowing because if it's bigger than them, not knowing if it has teeth or claws, right? All of those things. And then, and this is the fourth characteristic that you mentioned, this is what triggered my thought, is hyper focus. So people think, you know, that distractibility is the main defining feature, or being super hyper, but actually the hyper focus of like when you're after prey, you're after prey. You are not getting diverted from your task. You are on until it's complete. It escapes, or you catch it, or whatever happens. So what we have are phenomenal hunting instincts, like amazing. Now, is this any good if you're a farmer? Not so much. You plant the carrot seed and then you dig it up the next day to see if it grew yet. That doesn't work so well, right? A lot of patience, you need to keep things stable, you know. So when we're in kind of where we're talking about environments, it's really important for, I think, anyone with ADHD to find the environment where they can be hunting for whatever they care about. And that's going to be radically different depending on the human. But what do you care about? What are you pursuing? When you're after that, and when you're focused and you're protected from the other distractions, you're a rock star. Like, it's amazing what people can produce when they can be distractible, impulsive, risk-taking, and hyperfocus on the right things. When you're in the right environment and you can hunt for what you care about, you're amazing. If you're in a farming environment, it will be very, very challenging, and you may try and, you know, contort yourself to try and fit in, but it ain't gonna work. Not for very long anyway.
Yeah, I'll put that link to the book in the show notes for everyone there. But yeah, easily distractible, impulsive, risk-taking, and hyper-focus. Definitely, yeah, every ADHD person I know is definitely it. That's why a lot of ADHD are entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Make an impulsive decision to start something. Like for me, it was I didn't like the environment I was in, so I started. Took a risk because we were 6 months pregnant, blew our savings on renovating the house we just bought, you know. And then I just hyper focused on getting it done so we can eat.
Yeah. And you pulled it off, and then some. And now you're in strategic coach, not a small task. And you have been for a long time.
Yeah, since 2011. Learning lots, not quick enough. Got to go back every year, right?
Don't go in the gap. Don't go in the gap. Yeah, no, it's interesting because our program is actually for Dan Solomon's ADHD, Babs's ADHD, I'm ADHD, been there forever, you know. So it's an environment, it's a true home for people who have incredibly fast brains, to use Ned Hallowell's description, Ferrari brains, bicycle brakes.
Yep.
Right? But every single one of the tools and structures that we have a coach is really designed to support someone to be very effective and not get caught up in all the minutia that we can find so distracting. So it allows entrepreneurs to hyper focus on what's important.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. His tools are very simple to keep us focused on what we need to focus on.
Don't they just cut through the clutter? It's my favorite. They're thinking tools. They're not forms. Yes, they're pieces of paper or online, but they're thinking tools. And I always get to feel smarter at the end after I fill it out. I love that.
And accomplished.
Yes.
Like for us, we achieve one goal, we jump to the next, we forget about the last one. And then that also helps you realize, especially with his moving future. We look in the past, see what we did well, what's our energy right now, what do we want to do in the future, especially with our brains, now or not now. It forces us to look at it, to be present, to see those three areas.
Do it now or do it never is some of the best coaching. I'll be on a call with someone and they're like, oh, okay, can you do this after? I'm like, one moment, please. And I'll, email someone or put it into action, because once the call's gone, poof, it's evaporated, gone. So, but if I can get it into motion, then it's fine. So yes, do it now, do it, or do it never. Really good coaching.
Yeah. And then the other thing I like about the program, no one's ever told me how to do something. Never. It's always been questioning my questions, questioning my thinking, and challenge the thinking. And that's to me that's the big difference. I'm not told what to do. If I want to do something, you're supported to make sure you thought it through properly. And I have a hard time taking orders. So that's why I started my own company, right?
I'm the worst. It's like you tell me what to do and you will see the what's called shadow self side of
Yeah.
me really fast. Not pretty at all. So, no, and a lot of us, the danger for us is that we become rugged individuals. We
Ah,
hate being told what to do, and we have to go and do it on our own because frankly, no one else does it at our pace or speed or with our mindset anyway. So that's the danger. And then when you are around people that actually can work with that or do think like you do,
mhm.
it's just such a breath of relief. It's amazing.
I think too, it's society that's kind of pushed us to be a rugged individual. Like for me, it's been, you can't do it that way. That's not how it's normally done. So then I just do it to either to prove them wrong or to piss them off. But at the same time, I agree with you. We do have that instinct to do it ourselves, but at the same time, we do have societal pressures that kind of push me to say you should be. Well, we all know the neurotypicals, you got to be an expert on everything. You got to do everything, right? If you
Yeah,
can't
but
do it, then you're no good.
it's interesting. I actually think that narrative traps everyone,
Yeah.
neurotypical or not. And so I shy away a little bit. This is probably Dan's influence. I shy away a little bit from feeling like society is doing something to me. First of all, I
Mhm.
refuse to be a victim. So,
Yep.
they can do that. But it's people. It's people who are stuck in a way of thinking that frankly probably isn't really working 100% for them either.
Correct.
You know, there's a great book by Todd Rose called The End of Average. You know, so we have organizations and structures that are designed for average. Turns out average is only a mathematical formula. There's no such thing as an average human.
Mhm.
Nothing, no such thing. If you take all the measurements, all the shapes, everything, nobody matches it.
Mhm.
Nobody. Great book. And so I think we're all trapped by the narrative would be another way to think about it. And we can change that. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to do it this way instead. It's interesting. So now there are things like school systems that are oriented. They are factory models for getting people to work in factories.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. So if we don't fit that, we need to go and create our own school system, which actually Todd Rose in that book has a great prescription for that. And so we just have to be confident to forge our own path. Once you actually find out about ADHD and entrepreneurs and entrepreneurism, you're like, oh my gosh, I am not alone.
Yes.
4% of the population are entrepreneurs. Now, another 1 in 20 actually are the type of entrepreneurs that you and I hang out with.
Mhm.
So we are a rare breed, but I know lots of them. And that's who I spend all my days with. So there is absolutely a community of people who do it differently, who do it well, who are
Mhm.
incredibly capable, very accomplished, very contributing. So they are out there. Your job is to actually just go find them and not contort yourself into somebody you're not,
Yeah.
because that's unhealthy for you and probably the people around you.
And only you can do that. Only you can get out of it. It's not up to anyone else to help you move it or figure it out that you should be a different person or work a different way. Like I did a lot of work myself for this. The look in the mirror concept is just, I really looked in the mirror, looked down, it was honest conversation, things I didn't like about myself. But to overcome those, it takes effort on your part to grow. And I think the group that we like to hang out with in that entrepreneur world is, that's what we all want to do, is to improve personally, professionally, emotionally. I've had a lot more talks with the 10X group, and there's a lot of emotion discussions.
Yeah.
And like that's just is fantastic, but it all takes a cognitive effort to
Mhm.
change the narrative that you're in. And I like
Yes.
that. I like that the way you phrase that.
Yeah.
So to recap, we got the right environment and your rule of know thyself, which is not fitting in the narrative. Find your own narrative that makes sense, but that's all work by you. Be aware of where you didn't fit to try to find a new area. And I think we've got to take a look seriously at the listeners here. The rugged individual concept is, we've always done this way. Well, especially when you start a company, you wore all the hats, and then it either became a habit or you feel that's what you have to do. For me, it was guilt to say, well, I can do it. I'll just keep doing it, or I don't want to give it up because I might look like I'm being lazy and not working effectively and comparing myself to the people I hired on my team. Um, what I really love, I want to finish with this: refuse to be a victim. Change your narrative.
Yeah.
Shannon Waller.
Oh, I love that. Someone put that as an epitaph for me, I would be very happy, actually. Yeah, all the growth, all the opportunity, all the freedom comes, Dan's a huge fan of this too. Like, take responsibility for yourself. And that does not mean blame. That does not mean blame.
No.
But when you take responsibility for how your life is going to turn out, all of a sudden, all the power is yours.
Exactly.
So be very aware of not giving your power away to anyone else. It doesn't mean being a jerk. It doesn't mean being, just like, I'm strong by myself. I'm an expert on entrepreneurial teamwork. I'm all about, supporting yourself. So be very, very confident and strong in the things that are your unique, what the coach we call unique abilities, why you're here, what you're on the planet for, and be very humble about everything else and celebrate everyone else's uniqueness, because there's a great expression. If you want to go fast, go alone. It's an African proverb. And if you want to go far, go together. Right. And so that kind of embodies the teamwork, which we didn't even get to talk about yet.
No, we're going to bring it back another time for that.
We'll have to do another podcast. Yeah. But yes. So, but that only happens if you are not a victim. Don't go there. There is no power, no strength, no freedom in being a victim. It's like, what works for you and what doesn't, you can choose. And then there's enormous opportunity in just that mindset. So thank you, Andre. I love all the points you pick out. That's so cool.
And I want you, the listener, I want to hear from you and tell me what you think about this. Refuse to be a victim. Now I even forget the other half I said before, but the rugged individual, please take a look at what you're doing with your company. And if you're doing it all, and do you need to do it? And then what narrative are you telling yourself that you have? And what can you do to get out of it? So you can send that to me at questions@theimpulsivethinker.com or at our website. And thanks again for listening. Shannon, always a pleasure. This has been fantastic. I definitely learned a few things too. And we'll talk soon again. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank
Take
you
care,
so much,
everyone.
Andre. True pleasure.
All right. Ciao.